Start on part two of freedom of speech. We're asserting our freedom. That is what we are talking about in these last sessions. Freedom, asserting your freedom in the boss energy path. So, as we look at the assertion of our freedom, what we talked about on last week, and we're going to also address on this week, is the words that you speak, are the words that you speak, your freedom, and how you assert your freedom via words. And as we ended up on last week, I'm gonna go and do just a real brief recap. Actually, I'm gonna do a real brief recap of freedom of speech, because this week we're going to have a part two of that, but just a little bit of a slant on it. So we have, and let me go ahead and give you a full screen on this. We have freedom of speech as something that is very, very important to us when we start talking about asserting our freedom in the boss energy path. Now, as we talk about the boss energy path, we have 5 different components. We've talked about anchoring the core. We've talked about our spirituality, understanding how we're connected to the elements. We've understood all those different elements of connectivity that must be there for us to stay in that boss energy posture. So today, let's, again, this is just going to be a recap right now. The element of air is responsible for movement and breath. This is how, when we talk about the power of the words that you speak and communication and being able to express what's in your heart, mind, soul, spirit, the element of air, and we talked about all the elements, but this one we're focusing specifically on the freedom that you need to have in your element of air. It's responsible for your movement and for your breath. So if I just take that in that same vein of thought, when I am finding myself unable to move and stifled and stuck, when I feel like I can't breathe and I'm suffocating in a situation, or very stagnant, very dead, I want you to look at your element of air and make an assessment there, because the air is cut off. So again, air acts as a channel for communication. The element of air acts as a channel for clear communication and self-expression. I want to underscore clear here, because sometimes we communicate, but our communication is not clear. It's either not being clearly expressed or it's not being clearly understood. Either of those elements will create some obstruction of air, so that you're not getting the ability to breathe and the amount of oxygen that you need in your life. It's responsible for breath, nervous impulses, and movement. It influences the ability to act with love and compassion. So I almost want to guarantee, if you find someone who's unloving, definitely their air has been cut off. Imbalance in the air element may result in nervous disorders and depression, blood pressure issues, lung disorder, or muscle pains and spasm. And again, this is a recap, so that's why I'm going to go over it real quickly. I'm not going to belabor it, because I'm going to get to today's thought. Since the element of air is embodied in the breath, it relates to the flow of vital energy. A well-balanced air element within the body makes breathing smooth and steady, and thus calms the mind and the thoughts. Regular meditation, prayer, or yoga practices encourage deep breathing and learning the proper use of your breath. Incorporating breathing exercises into your routine can help you find lightness and inner power. It's also possible to use specific breathing techniques to identify whether the balance of the 5 elements of your body is disturbed, and to consciously restore that balance. It's therefore a good idea to bring awareness to the breath and connect to the air element before starting any of your meditation, your prayer, or your yoga practices. And I say that even for those that don't necessarily ascribe to the meditation or the yoga. Even in your prayer, I would suggest to you that it's not against your spirituality to just calm yourself and breathe even before you start praying. For those that are really acclimated to having a sense of feeling that either meditation or yoga is new age and you just can't get with that, if you're in the prayer scope, still calm yourself. Check your breathing before you start to pray, and just let yourself kind of breathe before you get started in that time. Is your airway open? And that's a question I want you to constantly check within yourselves. Simple airway checks are this. Can you say no? For those that find it very difficult to say no, more than likely there may be an obstruction of your airway. Can you say no without feeling the need to explain yourself? We talked about that in depth. And every idle word, not right or wrong. And when we talk about every idle word, I'm not talking about, did you say something right? Did you say something wrong? In this instance, we're saying, are you doing a lot of talk that's unnecessary? It's not right. It's not a matter of being right or wrong. It's just checking. Am I doing a lot of unnecessary talk? As my mother used to say, you're going to need that breath someday. So understand, if you're releasing that air and releasing that breath, let it be for something that's necessary and for something that counts. Your words have power. Creating chaos in the atmosphere is often an actual element that is manifesting from the words that you're releasing. That chaos in your atmosphere can actually be, again, from the words that you're releasing. Balance of the 5 elements of nature. Any element of our body being out of balance results in suffering or disease. Here, meditation, prayer, and yoga comes into play to help us restore the balance of the 5 elements and to enable us to unfold the powers and abilities of each of these elements. They represent the most powerful ways to restore health because it can bring the 5 elements into harmony. Now, this is where we're going to start today. And I know I went through that real quickly because, again, that was just a recap. We've already had that lesson. For those that need to see it, you can see it on demand. Once it's up, you can see it on demand. But this is where I want to start today. We hear so much about freedom of speech, and especially in this country right now, it's very heightened, the idea that I have a freedom of speech. And so, yes, freedom of speech is very essential. And again, that deals with I have the right to say and express what I want to say, how I want to say it, and you can't take that right away from me. Now, today, I want to put a little twist on that and move away just from the freedom of speech, because people are saying a whole lot of things. And even as we concluded on the last, is it unnecessary? Every idle word. There's a whole lot of unnecessary words that are being put into the atmosphere, creating chaos right now. But you do have the right to that speech for those that exercise it. Now, I want to take, again, the twist today and not just deal with the freedom of speech, but I want to deal today with speech of freedom. And there is a difference. So let's again take a look at speech of freedom versus freedom of speech. Speech of freedom. There are a lot of people that are utilizing their freedom of speech and saying what they want to say, but the words that they say are there's death, there's not life in it. It is unnecessary, even as we talked about giving account of every idle word and trying to pay attention, understanding again from the premise, our words have power. Our words are potent. Our words really create the world around us. And I know a lot of times we want to say, well, I didn't have control of that. I didn't have control of this. I didn't have control of the other. And to some extent, some of that may be true. But then even in a given situation, and this is what I want us to learn for ourselves and then begin to teach it to our children and to our children's children. Even in certain scenarios, even though something may be happening in your world, you still have the ability to begin to have speech of freedom, even though there may be things that initially you did not have control over, but ultimately you do have control. And that's where I want us to change, because we're talking about boss energy. Boss energy becomes very suppressed when people feel like they don't have control. They do not have the power. The power is in possession of someone else. Someone else is asserting or usurping authority over them. That's what causes the boss energy to dissipate or feel like it's not there at all. So that's where we lose speech of freedom. And so let's take, for example, a scenario of a child that is molested. that child may not have power and does not have power over that adult that's molesting them, or it may even be an older child. That child may initially feel very powerless, very hopeless, very helpless. But this is what I want us to teach ourselves, if you've had that experience, and or your children and your loved ones, just using that scenario as an example. Speech of freedom, obviously, more times than not, what happens in that kind of trauma, and again, I'm just using this for an example. This can go all the way across the board in several different examples, but I think people can understand it very clearly with this example. So that child initially, the air is cut off, because typically what happens is the abuser challenges that child with some tactic of fear, so that the child's airway is cut off, so that the child cannot breathe, so that the child, and I'm saying figuratively here, not literally, the child cannot speak, the child cannot communicate what has happened to them. And so they find themselves cut off and isolated, and their air supply is cut off, and they find they neither have freedom of speech nor speech of freedom. Okay. But let's say that that child, as they get older, and let's deal with it from this standpoint. I want us to always feel that we have the freedom of speech. Let's start with that side right there. I have the opportunity, I have the option, I have the power to speak. I may need to find who I need to speak it to. And I say this even to those that are victors. We say we are victors, not victims. We are tors, not Tims. We are victors, not victims. I encourage victors to understand that ultimately, even if you tell the first person and exercise that freedom of speech, oh Lord, that the spelling is still there, Lord Jesus, exercise that freedom of speech. I want you to recognize that at the end of the day, you still have the ability to find the next person. If they won't listen to you, find the next person, and keep exercising that freedom of speech until you find someone that has the ability to hear, listen, and understand. Then after you found the freedom of speech to tell and come out of the place of asphyxiation where you just can't breathe, you can't speak, you can't communicate, you can't express yourself, move yourself farther along in that scenario to speech of freedom, because freedom of speech is definitely, I have become bold enough, and I have become strong enough. I have become determined enough to keep talking and talking and talking until someone hears what I am saying. So at the end of the day, I find that freedom of speech, but yet and still, I find time and time again that with individuals in that scenario, they do not experience speech of freedom, because the freedom of what I'm saying, the speech is still some way, somehow very restricted and very connected to negativity that doesn't allow me to speak freedom over myself, such that I feel like some way, somehow I caused this to happen. Some way, somehow it was my fault. Some way, somehow I should have done this differently, or should have done that differently, or it never would have happened. That is not speech of freedom, but rather that is speech of bondage, speech of blame, speech of shame, speech that does anything but build you up. It's a bondage, captivating kind of scenario where at the end of the day, you have a scenario where the speech that you are given, even though you expressed yourself with freedom of speech to finally tell somebody, you still do not have speech of freedom. That's really what I'm addressing and talking about in this scenario. So out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And many times, it's a matter of discernment when you're walking the journey of life, discernment of your own thoughts, discernment of your own heart, and identifying that by the words that come out of your mouth. So, spiritual thought leader, what do you mean when you say that? There are a lot of people that will, in their head, they can, and a lot of people live in their heads. So it's like in their head, they can make perfect sense. They can talk perfect sense. They can say all of the appropriate things. They can give you all of the information and regurgitate back to you the appropriate thing, but yet and still listen to what comes out of their mouth, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so many times as a listener, I can discern whether or not a person is really at the place that they are saying and want me to believe that they are by just listening to the words that come out of their mouths. Because out of the abundance of the heart, it doesn't matter what's in your head. You can say the right things, but eventually, if you just allow an individual to talk, or even with dealing with yourself, if you just listen to yourself talk and listen to the words that are coming out of your mouth, you can identify your frequency. What we talked about that before, your frequency. What is it that you say the most? What is, and it doesn't even have to be the most. Let's just deal with sometimes, because your mind is on high alert. Sometimes your mind is still saying all of the things that need to be said, but every now and then something will slip through the cracks that's coming out of the abundance of your heart. And that slip through the cracks is still identifying where you really are. Understand me when I say that. It identifies where you really are. And so I'm encouraging you on this boss energy path to pay attention to the things that come out of your mouth. And okay, let's come here as well. The things that you think in your mind, because your mind is also speaking, not just your two lips and your tongue and air passing over your vocal cords. That's not just what I'm talking about alone, but I'm also including with that the thoughts that keep rolling through your mind over and over and over, because your mind is speaking to you as well. Out of the abundance of your heart, that conversation that you have with yourself that nobody else can hear, just you, just me, myself, and I, that conversation that's going on is also helping you to identify what's in the abundance of your heart. Because if it is in there and it keeps manifesting over and over and over, that's your frequency. So if that's the frequency that you're on, even though your lips may be speaking freedom, your heart is manifesting bondage by the words that are coming either out of your mouth or rolling through your mind continuously. So this is what I want us to deal with on today. Not just a matter of exerting your freedom and talking about the freedom of speech. And again, we understand we're talking about the element of air, that is where I want us to identify, where am I on this spectrum of boss energy, and how am I being impacted on this spectrum with how my words manifest not only what's in my heart, but they also then have the ability to go over and manifest what's in my world. So then these are the things I want you to ask yourself. Do you speak bondage over yourself? And this is all for you to make the assessment yourselves. I'm not trying to judge you. Nobody can judge you. Let's always be clear on that point. Nobody can judge you, and you are nobody's judge. Let's be clear on this. So as you're doing your journaling, these are the things that I want you, as you go from this point forward after this class session, I want you to ask yourself, and pay attention now, pay attention. Do you speak bondage over yourself? Do you speak limitations over yourself? Because today we're not just talking about freedom of speech. We're talking about speech of freedom. Do you speak limitations over yourself? I can't. I don't have the ability. I don't have the mental capacity. I don't have the mind. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the intelligence. I don't have the understanding. I can't. Those are limitations that you are speaking over yourself. I can't comprehend it. I can't understand it. Do you speak limitations over yourself? Because again, this is going to firmly impact your boss energy when you are constantly coming from a place of limitation. So write this down in your journal. Do I speak limitations over myself? And I want you to look for it. Or am I speaking limitlessness? It's limitless. It's limitless. I want you to have a mindset. It's limitless. You're under an open heaven. God has given you an ability exceedingly abundantly above. I want you to see the fullness. I want you to see the abundance. I don't want you to operate and continuously think about limitations and restrictions. Do you speak limitations over yourself? Again, we're talking about not just freedom of speech, but speech of freedom. Then do you speak lack over yourself? And I really want you to think about that. This is an area that, I think a lot of people don't realize their mentality starts from a place of lack, but the universe, the God that we serve, is more than enough. More than enough. So if it's more than enough, why do you see yourself in lack? If I go to one of the ancient scriptures of wisdom, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Okay. I live in a place of abundance. I live in a place of not just enough, but more than enough. Is my mindset and is the place that I come from a place of lack? And do I speak that over myself? Well, I don't have enough money. Well, I'm broke. If you keep telling yourself and keep releasing into the atmosphere that you are broke, you will constantly be broke. You're speaking that over yourself. I don't have enough money. Keep speaking that over yourself and you will not have enough money. Are you speaking lack over yourself or are you speaking abundance? Because again, we're not just talking about freedom of speech, but we're talking about speech of freedom. Do you give life through what you speak to yourself? And this is huge. I hope you all are writing this down. Do you give life through what you speak to yourself? And listen, you don't have to have somebody else speak over you. And this is where a lot of common traditions right now, I really challenge them because there's so much value put in trying to find somebody somewhere that has a connection to God that can speak a word over your life. You have a connection to God. You have a connection and a oneness to the universe. Speak over yourself. I want you to come to a point where you start speaking life when you get up in the morning. As you go through the day and challenges may come, speak life. As you go through the continuation of the day into the nighttime, speak life. Start taking this very seriously, that you speak life over yourself and give yourself life, not death. So when I talked earlier about how so many times we're creating the chaos in our environments, that chaos comes when I got up this morning and I'm speaking life, but then a few challenges came at 10 o'clock and by 11 o'clock, I'm speaking death and I'm speaking all of this into the atmosphere and then wondering why when I spoke life at 7 o'clock and then I spoke death at 11 o'clock, why there's chaos in my day. I need you to get in a mindset of consistency, that this is the world in which I live. This is the world in which I reside and abide, and I speak life over myself all the time. Even though there may be times where yes, the challenges, and you notice I use the word challenge. I may use the word obstacle, but listen, at the end of the day, this is everybody's life. It rains on the just as well as the unjust. Everybody's going to go through situations in life, but it's a perspective that makes the difference. We talked about perception and perspective in our earlier classes. So it's the perspective that makes the difference. As a man thinks, as a woman thinks in her heart and mind, or his heart and mind, so is he. If your perspective is a perspective of losing, if your perspective is a perspective of being down and out and under, if your perspective is one of defeat, you're going to see everything, even the victories, as some level of defeat, because that vantage point that you're coming from does not allow you to see it for what it is. So this is where the perspective becomes very, very critical and vitally important. So I say, and I use this all the time, and I use it over and over again, and I will continue to use it until my dying day in talking to people to help them understand. I use what I call the rubber band effect. The rubber band is you. The situations that stretch you are the obstacles, the hard places, the difficulties, the challenges. That's the stretching. And ultimately, because you are a person that's intended to succeed, I know my thoughts concerning you. I know my thoughts concerning you. Thoughts of good and not of evil, to give you a desired end, that you would have abundance, that you would have wealth, that you would have life and life more abundantly. These are the thoughts that are given towards you. And so at the end of the day, understand that in the stretching, there's not going to be any more stretching than what you can bear. So the stretching is designed, because your steps are ordered. Your stretching is designed. And when that resistance is at the right level, the whole design of the resistance is to launch you forward, not to break you. I need you to get that perception. I need you to get that vantage point down in your shando. The amount of resistance is directly proportional to the launch that's intended. It's not for breaking. What can I do with a broken rubber band? Once the rubber band is broken, then the usage of it from that point forward is extremely limited. There's no desire to break the rubber band. The desire is to allow the rubber band to be useful and or be launched as far as it can be launched. So that pulling, that obstacle, that restriction, that challenge, it's not to break you. It is not intended to break you. And if you can understand, even from the laws of nature, Newton said, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I say this many times to people that have really experienced very difficult and challenging places in their life. If you understand, if your life is this low, if your life is this deep down, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Understand that your elevation, understand that your last place of launching and the place that you're going to be after all this is over and you've endured this and survived it, and not only just been a victim, no, I'm not a victim, but become a victor over it. That opposite direction is that high. It's just that far that you're going to be launched and propelled forward. If you can get, even in the deepest, darkest time of your life, the deepest, darkest time of your day, if you can maintain that mindset and that vantage point in your thinking, if you can maintain the frequency of continuing to speak life to yourself, even though it feels like, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. If you can continue to speak life to yourself and fear no evil. This is not intended to tear you down or break you down and leave you stranded, broke, busted, and disgusted. It's making me into the place, into the person, into the character that I am designed to be ultimately. And again, for every action, it's that equal and opposite reaction. I am happy. I'm rejoicing. I'm moving forward. I'm consistently speaking that life over myself, because the equal opposite reaction of what I've been through, and as low as I've been, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm about to go into outer space and orbit. So do you give life through what you speak to yourself? That's a question I want you to put in your journal, and I want you to pay attention. The times that you're speaking life, And you've got to do this even in the midst of the challenges, even in the midst of the obstacles. And even in that, let me say this. That's why I encourage you, because I don't want you to get into this place that, like, spiritual thought leader just never wants you to speak a reality of how you're really feeling. No, that's why you use meditation. That's why you use yoga. That's why you use prayer. And then let me add number 4. And that's why you utilize your friends and other support systems, because there are times that even as you're going through the journey, you're going to need to have that support of others that can actually be tangibly felt, that can listen to you. You can touch them, you can see them, and you can have real come to Jesus conversations, so to speak, where you can tell and talk about what's really on your heart, so that you can continue to speak life over yourself and not become asphyxiated by the things that are going on in your world. You need to talk and talk it through. There's nothing wrong with talking it through, but make sure you do whatever you need to do so that you can continue to speak life over yourself. So as we come to the conclusion of today's teaching, I want you to think about this. Speech of freedom. I know we talk about freedom of speech, but speech of freedom is essential. Speech of freedom is essential. And this little saying is a saying that I saw years and years ago. And I just wanted to bring it into the conversation today. And I have a friend that uses this as her mantra, and I love it. Watch your thoughts, because they become words. Watch your thoughts. And what did I say? As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And this is out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So again, paying attention to that. Watch your thoughts, for they become words. And those words have power. And we're emphasizing today speech of freedom, not just freedom of speech. Now, watch your words, for they become actions. What you speak, you put something in motion and the actions follow. I'm going to say that again. What you speak, and when you speak, you put something in the atmosphere that puts things in action. Watch your actions, for they become habits. And what you do repeatedly, we're talking about frequency here. Watch your actions, for they become habits. So listen, your actions speak louder than words. There's a saying that says that those actions, by the time your words created it, okay, and the thoughts put it into words, and then your words created it, it became action. And then those actions, by the time you put that in motion, those actions are screaming. It all started with your thought, then translated into the word, and then those actions, by the time you get to actions, it's screaming. So that by the end of the day, again, what did I say? Discernment. I want you to get very comfortable and very familiar with that idea and concept in boss energy. Discernment. You've got to utilize discernment. It doesn't matter if you're working from your head and not from your heart. There are people that have the ability to work from their head, but at the end of the day, their heart, out of the abundance of the heart, that's what your thoughts are going to be. And your mouth is going to speak, and your actions are going to follow suit. So that I don't care, at the end of the day, you can be trying to convince me. You can be trying to blow smoke up my nose. You can be trying to, pull the wool over my eyes, whatever little phrase you want to put in there. Watch, because those actions are going to start screaming the reality that's actually there. Watch those actions, because they become habits. And watch your habits, because that's your character. What you develop as your habit, that's what becomes your character. And then watch your character, because that becomes your destiny. So I wanted to put that in, because it is absolutely positively a domino effect. If you're not operating in speech of freedom, if you're not operating in speech of freedom every day in your lives, when we start talking about boss energy and being consistently and constantly in a state of boss energy, then the domino effect is going to be in motion. for the positive or the negative. But again, you're creating it with the fruit of your lips. You're creating it with your mouth. You're creating it with your words. You're creating it with your thoughts. So let's look at this once more and again. Watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. And watch your character, because that becomes your destiny. Now, with that, I also want to come back and give, if I might, what I'm going to say right now in this season is really appropriate for me, because I am in that space and in that place where I feel like definitely and for sure what I am experiencing in this phase of my life right now is really a manifestation of the words that I spoke. So I had a desire to make some transitions. My sister was going to make some transitions, and I wanted to make some transitions with her for the purpose of, many of you know, I lost my mother in 2021. And that was, just quite a loss, just a tremendous loss. And it's something in me, as much as I know we're all going to leave here, there was nothing in my mind. Somehow or another, it's like a child, she was going to live forever. And it was kind of a fluke situation. It wasn't because she was ill, but a fall. It was a fall. But nonetheless, to get to cut to the chase, she ended up, and she did pass away as a result of this fall that she had. So, as time has changed and other things and other situations that happened with some other deaths prior to that, my sister was going to make a move and relocate. And I had said, I'm willing. We'd had a conversation, all the sisters, because this is a time and season of our lives where we want to be and remain connected. So out of that, I began to speak that I was going to make this relocation and the time window, because my lease was coming up where I was. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this again. And I'm not going to stay here. So when this is over, I'm going to just go ahead and I want to find my spot and get in it. So as it would be on last week, I took my sister and her husband to their new place of abode. Beautiful, just beautiful. Now, mind you, prior to that, I had started speaking at the beginning of this year. People would say, well, for those that were asking, when and what do you want to do? My nephews, my family, when and what do you want to do? And what's the time window? Well, I knew what my end result was, but I kept saying, I said, you know what? By the 15th of July, I'm by the 15th of July, I want to at least have some understanding what direction I'm going. But, and I found myself modifying, because at first I started saying, by the 15th of July, if I can find some place and just find some place to sit for a minute and then move on to where I really want to be, give myself time to check out scope out the land, spy it out, see where I want to be. And then it came to me. And I'm on speech of freedom. It came to me. You hate to move. You absolutely positively hate to move. Why would you move someplace to turn around and in a year or less move again just because you want to go and spy out the land? Why don't you start speaking? I'm going to find my place, and the place for me can be my first and my last move, rather than sit someplace and hover for a minute and then have to turn around and find the place and do it again. So that came as a reality of, again, speech of freedom. Because listen, it could have been just exactly what I was speaking in the beginning. Go there, sit for a minute, look around, find where you want to go. And okay, I created that. My words spoke that. But I promise you, this is where the meditation, and I told you all, I don't do the emptying out meditation. I do the fill me up. I fill my senses. So when I go out in nature, that's typically my spot. When I go out in nature and just allow that to fill me up, and I allow it to speak to me, I allow it to minister to me, I allow it to give me and just fill me up with the vision for direction and what I want to do, where I want to be, how I want to do it. While I was in that space, and there's my alarm. It's almost time for me to wrap it up. So we're at a good space. While I was out there at the lake and just letting the universe speak to me, letting God speak to my spirit, whatever way you want to put it, I begin to say, why am I putting this extra on myself? Child, you old. Why are getting older? Let me regroup. Let me rephrase that. You're getting older. Why would you put that on yourself to go and find a spot and stay there for a hot second just to turn around and have to do this all over again? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Stop speaking that. So I had to stop. And I shared this with some of my friends that were close to me. I said, I got to stop speaking that. I just want to go and get it once, one and done. Okay. But I'm still like, but this time window. And I'm like, man, this time window. Now, mind you, I had already put in the universe over and over again as I was getting asked this question. I had given this July the 15th date, right? But that was to at least have some direction. But it was the July 15th. But now I've modified my speech of freedom to say, I'm not trying to do this twice. We're just going to do it one time. So here we are. So here I go again to retract back to last week, taking my sister and her husband, my sister and my brother, because that's my brother, to take them to have this beautiful move that they're making and just drop. Literally, we left on Friday morning at 4:00 in the morning. Friday evening, my nephew said, okay, I got some places written down, because I told him when I come, I know I'm leaving out Saturday. But when I come, I just want to go and at least look at some areas so I can see, thinking I'm going to come back to Kansas City and continue to virtually look for a location. So we're out and about and we're driving and we're looking and we're seeing in the nighttime, in the evening, because I said I always like to see what spaces look like. You have to know me. Anytime I'm moving to a location, I want to see it in daylight. I want to see it at nighttime. I want to see it at several different hours of the day to see what it's like. So we went out in the evening, got back. And then, as it would be before we retired, it was okay, something just came up on the listing. And my nephew was like, well, I can try to call in the morning and see if we can get a chance to see it after we look at some other things. I'm like, oh, that's cool. To make a long story short, let me tell you, talking about the words, the speech of freedom, and how it will activate in your lives if you just start checking what you speak, how you speak, and every idle word, the unnecessary speaking, and to really start tightening up what you speak. So in this particular scenario, the owner, the stipulation that was in there with this was it needed to be a rapid move. And the movement was, the end date of it was, it needs to be done by July the 15th. So this is this date that I've been speaking since the beginning of the year. So as it would be, it definitely, because it was a very fast moving situation with a spousal divorce and, things that, was challenging. And so everything needed to happen. Bam, 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 bam. And I tell you, this is how the universe will work, because now, mind you, I'm looking at this property knowing full well that by 4:00, I'm at the airport flying back to Kansas City. So at the end of the day, to just cut to the chase, as everything was okay, yeah, let's move forward with it. Let's do the paperwork. Let's see what happens. And on and on and on. To make a long story short, by July the 15th, according to those words and the date that was set by my mouth, hear me when I say this. And again, I just put it out into the atmosphere. And this area, I want you to understand, sometimes you're putting stuff in the atmosphere and you're really not even giving it any thought, because, now I did pay attention to when he said this needed to be done and transacted by July the 15th. Okay, so I'm like, wow, that was my date, but hey, but at the end of the day, to include again the modification of the speech of freedom that said, why would I move twice when I can move once? And to have all of that transact, to have everything go through, to have everything bam, 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 and it's done. And so that by those words, here is the opportunity, the space and the place and the perfect location for me that listen, I'm there. This begins to manifest a totally different reality in your world when you start paying attention to not only the freedom of speech to say what it is I want to say, but to also have the speech of freedom that begins to say what it is that I want, begin to speak liberty, begin to speak possession, begin to speak, yes, the whole idea of abundance, to begin to speak, I can have what I want to have just like I want it, right on down to a beautiful front yard, a complete privacy fence all around the back, a whole yard. I mean, speak and get what you want. And so at the end of the day, you know, it was very interesting to me because I'm gonna tell you, I was a little shocked, stunned, and amazed myself, to the extent that my nephew said, well, what do you think, Aunt Jean? What do you think? And I said, well, you know, I like it, and da 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 da. But, you know, and he was like, no. He said, speak that thing, speak it, you know. And I got tickled that he was encouraging me to stand strong. Whatever you want, that's what you can have. If that's what you want, that's what you're gonna get. And that ability to understand speech of freedom releases you and puts you on a whole different trajectory, so that again, I'm gonna go back to that because listen, once you speak those words and it begins to put it out there, your thoughts become those words become the actions, and those actions become the habits, and the habits become your character becomes your destiny. That domino effect that starts to happen in your life, that's what begins to bring a different level of alignment into your environment, so you're no longer just living and trying to survive in this world that is scattered and littered with chaos. Pay attention to your words. Pay attention to your words. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to wrap it up because I'm sure I'm past my time and the alarm has already gone off. So I want to give you the time to redeem the text, to actually talk on the text. And so from that, I'm going to come over, and I hope that this has helped you on today. But this is part two, part one of asserting your freedom was freedom of speech, but part two today is speech of freedom, and there is a difference, and I want you to get that very, very seriously anchored in your mindset, where you're paying attention not only to the freedom of speech to say whatever you want to say, but I want you to have speech that's of freedom and not anything less. All right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and unmute yourselves for those of you that are in my Discord channel in class. To the students that want to speak, excuse me, go ahead and unmute yourselves, and we'll have some conversation. Let me come out. Go ahead. Yes. Let me get out of this screen right here, because I want to be able to see you. I want to be able to communicate with you. All right, go right ahead.
Good morning, spiritual leader.
Good morning. I hear Sassy Cassie, and I heard another voice, but let's start with Sassy.
Two Tams, Yvonne.
Oh, awesome. Okay, two Tams. I'm gonna take you all. I'm gonna go right on around. Two Tams, and then we'll take Sassy Cassie. Is that okay? Were both of you talking?
Go ahead. Well, Sassy Cassie.
Okay, Sassy Cassie, go right ahead, sis.
Okay, good morning. I've got joy bells ringing in my soul this morning. Yes. I tell you, yes, this has helped me tremendously. I'm learning the ABCs of being me and being free. I'm telling you, I'm learning the speech of freedom versus freedom of speech. Aiming, I'm learning how to acknowledge, how to acclimate and activate. I'm learning what keeps me free, what makes me free, how to possess myself, how to possess me, myself, and I. B, I'm learning that my breaking point is really my breathing point. I can exhale and move forward and go to a new iteration.
Come on.
And C, I'm learning cause and effects that I bring to my life. Because I do certain things that affects me this way, because I don't do things that affects me this way. And then I'm learning how to develop and discern so that I never have to be stagnant again in my entire life. And that's all I got to say.
Come on, Sassy Cassie. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for
I
that.
love it too. I love it too.
Come on, Two Tams. Talk
Ooh.
to me.
I want to say one thing I always loved about you, Pastor Cousin, is you practice what you preach. Now you done put into motion the words you spoke. Date, everything. You know what? I hate to move too, but I'm packing.
Hey.
I don't know where I'm going, but I'm packing. And I know what God has for me is good,
Yes.
good, good.
Yes.
And every point you, man, just bless my soul. I tell you what have I been speaking over me? Well, I'm going to say 40%, 40% mess. Mess.
Come on.
My mess is about to turn into my message.
Come on. There you go. Turn that
And
thing around.
I gotta watch my thoughts. I'll be thinking crazy. I ain't the only one that experienced loss in my world.
Come on.
There's several on this podcast that live in loss.
Yes.
So why am I gonna choose to let it make me crazy? No.
Come on.
Hey, I can't go that way. I can't go that way. These words have power that turn into actions.
Yes.
From what I'm talking.
Yes.
Look what you was talking. What I don't mean take so much time, but this is fire. This is fire, baby. Your words,
Yes.
what you teach,
Yes.
turned in your actions.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to move. I'm coming. You know, I want them royalties that invite myself.
Listen, come on.
These actions, what you spoke, are turning into your habits.
Yes.
You about to not get left behind in any area of your life.
Yes.
Any area. I got sense enough to follow that lead.
Receive it.
My habits about to change my character.
Come on. Come on.
My character has always been rough and tough and cuss you out and kick you know what.
Uh-huh.
Well, man, I'm 68. It's time to change. It's time to change. And I want to thank you for being the biggest influence in my life.
Oh,
I can't even give that credit to my parents. God rest their soul, because they didn't know.
bless you, baby.
That's the only reason they didn't give it to me, is because they didn't know.
Right.
So, and you came along with your little rebel self. And I love you. God bless you. God bless you. You know, so many people out there just saying the words. You are saying the words and living the life.
Bless you.
Your words have got you this life. Why? Because they're positive words.
Yes.
Girl, you gotta go along. God bless you. Congratulations and all that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I love you. And thank you for
I
that. That's
love you
powerful.
back.
That's powerful. Two Tams, that's my girl. That's my girl right there. That's my cousin. And I love you. I love you. Thank you so much. Anybody else? I want anybody and everybody. I hope that you really will take this to heart, because speech of freedom will change your whole life. I promise you. Anybody else that's in class today?
I will say this. I am a living testimony that words have power. Because when I was sick, I had to start transforming the way I was thinking about it, and I started using affirmations to speak to my body
Yes.
and speak healing into it. So, and it wasn't until then that it actually started changing my body, the energy, all of that. Things started changing when I started speaking
Yes.
to when I started speaking healing and started speaking life into myself. So I will, as far as that's concerned, I am a living witness that words have power and you can speak freedom,
Yes.
life.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm a witness that you're telling the truth. All the way from death's door, the Lord brought you back on your words. And I saw that, and I'm watching it. I'm watching God do it. So, I see him doing it. Your words. Thank you so much for that. Anyone else?
Good morning, family.
Good morning.
It's Tall Pumps.
Come through.
So I was listening to you and thinking about speech and the breath, and this is something that's reoccurring in my life ever since I started to understand boss energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about my baby and the testimony and the prayers that brought us through. Um, and when they were trying to cut off her air,
Yes.
which seemed like my air was being cut off as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were in the hospital, um, try to summarize, there came a time they had to transfer us from the hospital that didn't have the facility to accommodate pediatrics. So they were talking about putting a ventilator and trying to put a tube down her throat. And just in case she were to pass out.
Mm.
And my whole spirit said that you are not going to cut off her air
Yes.
because that's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
She is going in and out of consciousness, but her breathing, according to all these machines, me just having that closeness with her, holding her hand, putting my head on her chest and her head, she is still alive. So you all are not going to cut off her breath under the umbrella of, oh, well, we're going to open up her airways. Her airways are not blocked.
Mm-hmm.
So that boss energy, when you were saying the freedom of speech versus speech of freedom,
Mm-hmm.
I had to exercise my frequency of
Yes.
breath and activate that. And I felt the prayers.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the prayers of what man can't do.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about what God has for you, man cannot take it away from you.
Yes.
And it was not my baby's time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not going to allow this man to pad their medical bills by hooking up these machines and creating a scenario that was going to be worse.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, every action, there is a reaction.
Absolutely.
So I was not going to allow them to put more actions on what they called themselves being proactive, but they were being reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Something that wasn't the case. So let me bring it back. So I was just thinking about the air
Yes.
and being able to tap into my boss energy and my child's boss energy.
Yes.
She has it.
Yes.
As you say, out of the mouth of the babe, she has that boss energy. And when, I would pick her and try to make sure that she was okay and explaining to her we're transferring to another facility.
Mm-hmm.
Just hold on with me. Uh, And when I look in her eyes, like you say, the window to a person's soul is through their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And when she gave me that eye contact, when she came, opened her eyes, I knew that she was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just waiting to move to that next iteration and next facility that was going to be able to let us go past this incident that took place.
Yes.
So tapping into that boss energy.
Yes.
Was essential. And I thank you, spiritual thought leader, for exposing and opening my eyes to what was inside of me. Even, boss energy is just your spirit
Mm-hmm.
and your connection with God and the elements,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to activate the proper elements and frequencies to move forward, to make the decisions in this world to move forward. So I thank you for that. And I thank you all for your prayers. I know I haven't came back on Testimony Tuesday or Thursday and told everybody we went to the doctor on Thursday. And she had on a neck brace. And even though I had allowed her to take the neck brace off and still be physical and out in the environment, playing ball and just taking in some fresh air, but to say, yes, you can take this brace off. We went Thursday and she took it off.
Awesome.
And it was like it was almost like it never happened. My girlfriend said, "Did they take an X-ray?" I said, "You know what? I didn't need them to take an X-ray to see if her bones had been repaired, because I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I see it. I see it in her movement. I see it. No one would know if she had an accident of the magnitude she had.
Yes.
I just physically look at it the way she moved, because she was back to 100%, if not better."
See.
So thank you all for your prayers, and thank you for exposing me and tapping us into this false energy that we all have, and being able to harness it and make a good decision in the moment when you're being tested. Your gangsters being tested. So thank you so much for that, and I appreciate it.
You are most welcome, Tall Pumps, and thank you for that testimony. And you bring up a good point, because there are times in your situation, and I was blessed to be able to walk through that with you as things were unfolding. Your testimony is one that really speaks to the discernment, because there was that was trying to take place there for anybody that would understand the situation without giving all the details. Discernment to be able to say no when they want to do something more in an experimental or let's try this kind of, but to be able to have that boss energy and discernment to identify the connection that you had with your child and the connection that you had with God, to be able to say, this is the direction, yes, no, and be very, very clear on it. And then to come back and see what God has done, which is literally nothing less than a teetotal miracle. I just applaud you for that. And throughout that whole journey, your resolve was to stay connected to what the universe, what God, what needed to happen for your child. And I applaud you for that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you all.
And we're still, listen. Yes, 2 Tams.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say to Tall Pumps, I really hadn't heard her testimony, and I also I knew her daughter was sick and to pray for her, and I did that. But her discernment, her boss energy, all that she had, she used and saved her daughter's life. That's why she still has her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that touched my heart. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. And I have to witness that definitely, even in my conversation with her, she was unwavering in that boss energy and very, very connected the whole time. And I just stood amazed as well, and just blessed by it's one thing to say a thing and to teach a thing, and then it's a whole nother thing to actually live and manifest a thing. And Mother stood. I'm gonna tell you what, Mother stood.
I tell y'all what, my mornings at 7 o'clock, we get into a routine and a regiment of stuff that you need, just like we need food and water and shelter. I need y'all at that 7 o'clock in the morning to get me going. I mean, I know when we go on vacation and when we not streaming and life happens, you got stuff that's going on.
Yes.
But I swear I look forward to it because it gets me going. It's like that gas that we need every day.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, the Lion's Den is a part of my regimen in the morning because that is my spiritual food. And I know we had the cracks and we be on the pole and Rebel got us doing all stuff, but this family I have, this is one most important family to me because I feel that energy virtually. It's amazing to me. So I thank you all for being such a vital part of my life.
Oh, we're glad to have you. We are family. There's no doubt about that. We are family. We are.
I agree with her 100%. It's me too. And I have to laugh with you about this. And one of my moments of madness, after I was mad, I came to my senses and realized I done messed up. I thought I was going, I said, oh, I can never show it 2 times again. And I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. I creeped back in, was received with love, and hopefully that's my first and last mental crisis with
Listen.
But anyway, I just wanted to say this is such and came along. You came along. I was led to you after my loss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just like a magnet, and I mean, of course, I knew you would have been in on some, and Valerie kept my head on straight from wanting to go after tall pumps because she had Grandpa Holmes' chair. Oh, I said, you done mad. This girl gonna ready to come after you and your old self. You better leave your young folk alone over a chair. But anyway, I love this family. The Lion family is awesome. So I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna shut up now.
Over Grandpa Holmes's chair, I was dying. That was so funny. Oh, bless y'all. Anybody else? Because we still, well, let's see, our cutoff time is 11:15. It's 11:07. And anything, I always love when you all reclaim the text because that's always when you all feed me, whether you realize it or not, that you all are feeding me. Really, really, really. I don't want to lose, cut off anybody.
This is Sassy Cassie again.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so enjoying being a part of the Lions Den and how it blesses my life. Every one of you are a blessing to my life also. And just hearing this testimony this morning, my bells got a little louder, okay? Joy bells be ringing. But I thank God for the scripture that says, for those of us that uh, adhere to the scripture, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of our testimony.
Yes.
And I thank God that no matter what the test, because He is our boss, and through His boss energy, He leads us through every test, from a test to a testimony. And I thank God for that.
Oh, that's a good word. That's a good word, Sassy Cassie. Thank you so much. All of these are good words. Y'all I tell you, you're feeding me. You're feeding me. Truck drivers in the room, I know you're quiet and you may want to remain quiet. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I definitely don't want to get out of here. If you have anything to say, if you'd like to speak, please share. And if you'd rather just kind of chill, we're respecting you. And all kind of love and prayers are still coming to you, sweetheart. He's typing. Okay. So, and thank you all for using chat. And I appreciate you all. And I hope that chat, for everybody that's here, I hope everybody's aware that chat is available to you now. That's a new function that they started in Discord a few weeks ago where we can chit chat. Well, I guess it's been more than that because we actually been out a week or two. So feel free to utilize the chat function anytime and every time you want to throughout. And today I was a little bit handicapped too because I couldn't follow the chat because my phone, for whatever reason, wouldn't. You can't talk right now. I got you that. I got you. Listen, we love you, truck driver, and we're so glad that you're here and you got our support and our prayers. And we love you. We love you. We love you. We're praying for the family in your time of bereavement right now. And I know you come in with that energy. You said, I just want to come in and love on everybody, laugh and everything, because you need that right now, even during this journey. But you know, we're right here with you. And I'll be reaching out to you just a little bit later on. So much love coming to you. So much love. And I'm just glad that you came in the room this morning. And I hope that it was a blessing to you from being here. Tall Pumps, I see you. Oh, got you. Prayers and love going out to truck driver. You know, this is family. We are family. And so, you know, you got brothers and sisters that are loving and hanging on to you. Kai Chick, come on in here, sis. I see you. Good morning to you. And you are, if you want to share something, go right ahead and talk, sweetheart.
I'm just glad to be here. I'm still figuring things out, but I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Okay, well, always, Rashida, the Rebel, will always help you with any technical challenges that you have. Always feel free to reach out to her, and she usually does a good job of helping you all walk through all the processes so that you can have, hopefully, an enjoyable experience. But welcome. We're so glad to have you in class. This is Kai Chick's first class today, and I did see you over in, I did let this stream go out today into Twitch, which I normally don't. Normally this runs in, and I think what I'm going to start doing, Rebel and I talked about this, I think we'll let once a month or somewhere thereabout, we'll have a stream that will just stream openly to Twitch for those that would like to watch it there that are not in the weekly classes. So I'm so happy to have you, Kai Chick, and welcome to the class. And we are a motley crew. We are a motley crew. I see BTD Mom. I'm gonna look over at Twitch here. I see BT Mom. I see Twana's Twitch. Yes, Rebel knows that BTD Mom is technically challenged. Because she is in the class. Listen, Michelle Brownell, good morning to you. If you're still there, so much love coming to you. And as I said, I had a conversation. Mino 3782. Come on. Good to see you. Stacy 546. I see you. As you know, normally this class is just in Discord, but we're going to start opening up some weeks, Saturdays rather. Let me get my days right. But so that you all can come in and be a part as well. And if you want to be a part of the class on a weekly, just reach out and let me know. You don't have to go through the whole process out there. Regina.Stillman, podia.com. But if you come through and just send me a whisper to me or let me know, and you can definitely come in and be a part of the class and have access to the classes that we've already done. Now, let's see where we are here. I think we're getting close to time. Let's see. I want to make sure I try to let you in. We're at 11:12, so it looks like I'm gonna let you redeem 3 minutes because our quit time is 11:15. You all have really been a blessing to me, and so with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, and we're gonna say peace for your journey. I love you.